So we just heard from Dr. Bredesen about the potential to reverse MCI and Alzheimer's using some of these protocols. You've been doing this on the front lines for more than a decade. What does it take to deliver these kind of results in clinical practice?
The first thing is to actually do the right testing. Dale and I talk about the 36 holes in the roof. There's probably between 70 and 80 of them total, not 2,000 or 3,000. But you've got to fix all of the holes. And what we find is you get most of them fixed, the rest of them slam shut. So whether you have one hole with the right patch, you've got to get them all fixed. So the real key is you've got to get the right initial testing. We were taught in medical school, James, that you do a CBC, a chemistry, a thyroid test, a B12, and an MRI, and you call it good. Why would you not look at the metabolomics, the microbiome, the detoxification pathways, the hormone imbalances, the nutrient deficiencies, all of the things we know in functional medicine you have to look at to get a personalized precision assessment of that unique bioterrain of the individual. Now that we've applied that functional medicine lens to cognitive decline, we now have a roadmap of how to shift these people out of cognitive impairment. The other key to this is really having a collaborative care team. We're taught medicine to do it all ourselves as a physician, but when you add a nutritionist, a health coach, and bring in a team approach and a collaborative care type model, then you have the energy of the entire team, you enlist the family, you enlist the caregivers, and you really have a much more model that's going to shift them out of illness into wellness.
Yeah, one of the things that you shared in your talk, which I thought was really powerful, giving the two examples of the two patients where one of them had the buy-in from the family and one didn't. What sort of difference does that make overall, and what are some of the strategies that you can use to engage the whole ecosystem around the patient?
One thing we've learned is that the caregiver burden of someone taking care of a patient with cognitive decline, taking care of someone with cognitive decline actually causes cognitive decline. The high cortisol, the high stress actually does damage to the hippocampus memory area of the brain. So when we share that burden with an entire group in a collaborative care, we enlist the partner, we enlist the family, we enlist my collaborative care team, then we're able to share that burden through everyone. When we find that we have the entire model set with that collaborative care, then we can actually get a difference in their outcome. Whereas when we have one person try to do it, the burden is so high, and the amount of things that we want to do on a day-to-day basis and be able to track those changes is just difficult to do by yourself. Yeah. And I really think the future of all of functional medicine, and particularly of reversing cognitive decline, is going to be able to put this together in a model where you have that burden shared by multiple people.
So maybe you could give us an example. I know you gave a lot of case studies during your talk here, but of a case where you were able to sort of facilitate this kind of transformation and what that looks like, just to give people an idea at home, like what's actually going on.
Well, we look at people through this lens of the subtypes. The first subtype is inflammatory. The second type is atrophic, or lack of hormone and vitamin D support. The third type is a toxic or heavy metal type of insult. And once we're able to categorize people on that basis, then we can develop the lab testing program that hones in on exactly what those deficiencies or imbalances are. Once we identify the hormone imbalance, we identify the toxic insults, we identify the imbalances, we're able to address them in a logical order that helps to shift them out of that subtype. And at every visit, we have to see them on a regular basis to try to see where those markers are moving and to try to stay ahead of the progress of those.
Yeah, and so what in your experience, is there one of those subtypes that's sort of easier to make progress on?
Well, in functional medicine, we're really good at inflammation. Okay. So the first subtype, the inflammatory subtype, is really the easiest to shift. We're really putting out the fire. And that's something that functional medicine practitioners are excellent at doing, using targeted nutrition, using food plans like the Mito food plan from IFM, and using targeted supplements to calm that fire down. That's really where the low-hanging fruit is.
Absolutely. And so with some of these more complex ones, let's say the heavy metal one, where there's a lot of burden, is it a standard detoxification protocol, or are there other things that you're having to do to take into account that you're dealing with a really sensitive area of the body?
I think it takes both. And a lot of times when we get the bioterrain fixed, when we get the gut healthy and we get the liver detoxifying, the body will let go of some of those heavy metals. Yeah. It depends on the genetic basis that each person has, but if we get the bioterrain laid out and we get the gut healthy, the body will start to let go of some of those biotoxins that it's holding. And that's really the key, is to try to get all of it in balance so the body can do it on itself rather than try to aggressively push it out.
Yeah, it's working with the body rather than than fighting it. You know, I've heard quite a lot of inspiring stories over this conference of people that have been interacting with neurodegenerative disease, and treating neurodegenerative disease has taught them things about the body that they've been able to take. I know you're kind of a generalist and you do see a lot of these cases. What have you learned from neurodegenerative disease that you can take into clinical practice with other kinds of cases?
Well, in a way, they're all the same. Is that when we address the body in this precision, personalized way and look at the matrix, particularly the bottom of the matrix with the lifestyle choices, and we address the body through all of these different components, whether it's neurodegenerative disease, whether it's cardiovascular disease, whether it's diabetes, there are a lot of the same models.
Yeah.
And it's really that lens is finally being applied to cognitive decline. And so looking at those imbalances is really the key, and having a starting point to allow the body to work with you, not against you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like functional medicine is is well set up to be able to deliver on this, because you're going to go through that same process whichever you go. You know, we've done this event's called the Evolution of Neurology. We've done the Evolution of Psychiatry and Oncology and Cardiology, and there is a common theme to all of this: is like treat the cause, get the lifestyle right, and all those kind of things. What are your thoughts of on how we can facilitate great health for everyone?
Well, I think the key to the future of chronic illness is functional medicine, and it's going to be delivered in this collaborative care model that we're talking about, where you really have ownership by not just the physician and the collaborative care team, but by the patient. And the successes we've seen in neurodegenerative illnesses is when there's been ownership by the client and by the family and by the caregivers. It's amazing to see people shift and to see them become self-empowered when they learn about what their body can actually do. Our job as doctors is to obtain information, to empower these people with knowledge, to help them make behavioral changes that fit their belief system on their terms. Once we meet people in that space and we share with them the tools that can actually get them from point A to point B, and they see the success, they're willing to go to the next level. And that's the relationship, that therapeutic partnership, that really functional medicine does the best.
And what tips do you have for practitioners who are dealing with patients where the mild cognitive impairment is leading to problems with, let's say, patient compliance?
I think that's probably the toughest part in all of medicine, is patient compliance. A lot of times, by the time a patient finds a functional medicine doctor, they've been through so many other physicians and not gotten the care that they're looking for or the answers they're looking for, or they've heard about functional medicine, or they've had success with a family or a friend and seen the power that functional medicine can be for these exact illnesses.
Yeah.
And so by having that awareness and then having the tools to give them the empowerment to do it for themselves, it's such a beautiful thing to watch, because as they get better, the people around them get better, and it's kind of a 1 + 1 = 10.
Absolutely. And what do you think of the potential of some of the new emerging models? You mentioned, nutritionists and health coaches. Do you think there's a potential for group dynamics in the future of Alzheimer's care and neurology?
Absolutely. When I worked with Dean Ornish 20 years ago, we saw that in the Reversing Heart Disease program, the most power was the group support we did each week.
Yeah.
And in those groups, when those couples went and did more on their own, in the subgroup analysis, those are the people that did the best. So there's something about the social support, the group support, that works really well. I think the delivery of group visits is really one of the futures of cost-effective healthcare, particularly for chronic illness like a neurodegenerative disease. The support that you get, the information that they share, it really is a cost-effective, time-effective way to get a lot of people to shift together and to encourage them to do it on their own. The work that Mark Hyman did with the Saddleback Church is such a testament to that. And we have multiple groups that work like that to help each other be more successful. They learn from each other, they teach each other, they support each other, and they empower each other. It's really a beautiful thing to watch.
That is amazing. I guess one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, obviously there's people like Dr. Terry Walls who have just had like a total transformation, and we've heard from other people here who've been, doing that same kind of thing. How do you modulate expectations with patients about what's going to actually be possible for them?
I think it's on an individual basis, James, that we always want to have hope, but we don't want to have any false expectation. Everybody is an N of one, and they're all a unique individual. But I do think seeing some of these successes, if you don't start from the point of having the hope and having the optimism and the positivity, it's kind of a synergy to the actual treatment. that they really work hand in hand.
Yeah.
If you don't have the optimism and the hope, you could have the best therapy not work. You could have a therapy that's not quite optimal, but with the love and the support and the hope, you get a better outcome with it. And so we see those go hand in hand.
Beautiful. I know you've been faculty on the training that Dr. Bredesen's been doing for the Institute for Functional Medicine. What's it been like being on sort of the other side and teaching clinicians to replicate this kind of work?
Our best training we had was in March at Huntington Beach, and we had 350 of our IFM practitioners that were there. And it was a very solid group, so we were able to teach at a higher level than we were able to for beginner classes. And at the beginning of the 3-day conference, it was 18 hours that we did teaching. We asked if people thought reversing cognitive decline was possible. It was kind of a quiet few hands that went up. At the end of the weekend, we asked the question again. There was a roar in the crowd. So when people see this whole model laid out and see these cases and see these outcomes, they see the power of using that functional medicine lens applied to this condition, and all things are possible.
Beautiful. You heard it here first. All things are possible. Mark, thanks for being on the front line all this time.
Pleasure,
Appreciate you
James.
sharing all your insight with us.
Thank you very much.